In this video, we're going to have our third and I think final look at the painters painting a little SQLAlchemy database that we've been making. And we're just going to push the queries a little farther along. So we have a basic database with two entities, painters and paintings, and the relationship is a one-to-many relationship that a painter makes, creates, paints many paintings, whereas a painting, we're assuming, is created by one painter. So that makes it a one-to-many relationship, and we will make the painter ID a foreign key in the painting table. So that's the basic idea of what we're doing. We have our basic imports and all that we need to have IDs, which will be integers. All the rest of the information will be strings, including the dates because they're very old dates, like from the 1800s. The foreign key is going to help us make the relationship. Another on the other side. So from the painting to the painter, we will have the foreign key establishing that relationship. From the painter to the painting, we will have this relationship idea that we're bringing in here. I'm going to save the database to art.db. I had made it previously, but I deleted it because I'm creating everything, so I don't need to be sort of adding the paintings over and over again. Here's my painter ID, which is the primary key. I'm going to their integers. I'm never going to explicitly assign them myself. I'm just going to let it auto-generate. They've got last names, first names, countries, birth dates, death dates, and here's the relationship to painting. Now, that's not a thing that you see in the database. This is more of a Python SQLAlchemy thing to sort of make the handling of that relationship in this direction easier. So we won't need to sort of explicitly join. It will be joining behind the scenes, but SQLAlchemy will handle the joining for us. But this is a way for us to get this relationship, as we will see finally now in the queries. Here's the painting. It has an ID, a title, a file name, and a painting ID, which is the foreign key, connecting it back to the painters table, specifically the ID of the painters table. Set up a session. We're getting our data from a JSON file. That's what we did in sort of version 2. And so in here we have painters, which is a list of dictionaries having the properties of a painter. And then within the painter, one of the properties is painting. And then so that list of dictionaries is just one property of a painter. So we've read that file and created this thing I'm calling art. And I have this nested loops. So the outer loop is a loop over artists. We're using the constructor to make and take all its properties and make a painter and then add that painter. And we do this flush so that it will sort of generate an ID because we're working with auto increment here. And then this inner loop, this nested loop, is a loop over the paintings of that painter. And I am using the constructor to make a painting. Then I'm signing, this is the foreign key here. I'm taking that painting I just made, giving its painter ID, the foreign key, relating it to the a painter. I'm in this nested loop, so I have a particular painter right now, a painter, and I'm using that painter's ID to become the foreign key of the painting, and then I'm adding it to the session. When I'm done all my loops, I'm going to commit. I could commit more often, but I'm just doing it one big commit of all the artists and painting, all the painters and paintings. And here's the queries that we had before. Query the painter class, which connects to the painters table. And we're filtering, so this is like a where clause on having ID 2. And that was George Seurat. So we're going to give information about painter number 2. Then we're querying the painting table. We're also filtering, but we're filtering on the painter ID, the foreign key. So this was a filter on the primary key, so it gives us one record. This is a filter on a foreign key, so it can give us multiple records. So this is going to give us all the paintings of painter number 2, again, who was Georges Seurat. Now I am I'm going to use the paintings, that relationship. So again, when we defined painter, we used this relationship idea. We said that painter had a relationship to painting, and I'm naming that within painter, I'm naming that relationship paintings. And so here I am grabbing, again, sort of repeating, I'm going back to Georges Seurat. So I'm going to painter, I'm going to the painter table. I am filtering on the primary key, the painter ID, number 2. So I'm going to get one artist, and I'm going to display that artist's information as we did before. But now I'm going to follow that up where I have this artist, and that artist had this paintings relationship. And I'm going to, and that being, it's a one-to-many relationship. That artist made many paintings. And so artist.paintings will be a list. And so I can loop over it. And I'm just showing the titles of the work. So I'm not showing you some of the other properties, or at least the one other property of the painting. But so that is, behind the scenes, that would be a join. I have explicit artist information, the last name, the first name, more than not just IDs, but explicit painter information and explicit painting information, the title, again, not just IDs. So and that's what this paintings relationship does for us. So I don't have to mess around explicitly with a join. I can. SQLAlchemy allows us to join, but it doesn't always. Some of the common joins is a very common thing one would do with a join, sort of handled by just sort of announcing above that we have this relationship. Here I'm just going to show that you can filter on something other than ID, which if you have any experience in database, the where clause does not have to be about IDs. So I'm filtering on the country this time. So I have a number of artists from France. Was the 19th century. France was the pretty big place for art. So many of the painters were from France. And so I'm querying the painter table and filtering on the country being equal to France. So that's going to give us many records. So I decided I wanted them all. Sometimes I've split this into 2, getting, say, here the first. So I split the query and then getting the first part of the query into 2 lines, but I can chain that all together. So that's what I did here in 104. And then I'm looping over all of the French artists. And then one last one. I can do numerical things. So I'm getting, again, going back to painter and getting all the painters, and I'm looping over the artists that I got. So I got all my records and I called it artists. I'm looping over that list. And now I am doing artist dot painters. That's that relationship again. Uh, is a list of paintings, and I can do sort of basic Python, like get the length of that list, so I can answer sort of how many paintings I have. So do some of the, there are things, there are queries, there are SQL statements, then do uh, counts and sums and things like that. And that can, of course, be done here in SQLAlchemy. So that's what we have. Let's run it. Created the database. And then here are our old queries. Artist with an ID of 2, that was just George Seurat. Here are the paintings of the artist with ID number 2. So these are the paintings of George Seurat. And that was 2 separate queries, one to get the painter information, one to get the painting information. So there was no join there. But here we are, this was all sort of based on one query, but relying on the relationship, which is doing behind the scenes a join for us. And so we got the information that George Seurat is from France, and then we are listing his paintings. So that was, in terms of SQLAlchemy, one query. But I sort of separated out the artist information from this loop over the paintings, but it was, in terms of queries, one SQLAlchemy query. This next to last one was just proving that it's not all filtering, or all of our where clauses aren't IDs. So here are, within my little set of artists here are the ones from France. And then we can do some numerical things. So we counted the paintings. So in my little database at the moment, Edouard Manet has 5 works, Georges Seurat 6 works, Henri Rousseau 2, etc. So just to show how much work it's doing for you, that we didn't have to, especially for, say, this one here or the last one, that we did not explicitly have to work through the join in which IDs have to match what was, we didn't have to explicitly map out the where clause of the join to say that this ID matched that ID. That was just sort of all managed for us by this notion in SQLAlchemy of the relationship. That's what I wanted to show in this one. Thanks for your attention.